Okay, here we go. Yes, you've got Mel. And what a wonderful way to end the week of broadcasts with a wonderful friend and human being from Estonia, our second wonderful guest from Estonia, from Tallinn. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you the incredible Birgit Vaalmuur. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Yes, and you are a remarkable person, but rather camera shy. So I want to congratulate you doubly that you agreed to
Thank
be
you.
on the show. And you're going to have to tell people about your life and how wonderful you are. But before that, I'm going to give you a chance to breathe because we have the jingle. We
Yes.
have to have the jingle. So
We
we'll
have
do,
to have
of course, we'll do the jingle. You ready?
absolutely ready.
Grab a seat or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell you got Mel? When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel. You've got Mel. Get a chill.
Oh, once is enough. And Mel has the incredible Birgit Vaalmuur. So, Birgit, how are things in Tallinn these days?
Worryingly, things in Tallinn are business as usual.
Nobody has corona.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they do, but it looks like nobody doesn't. So let's see how that goes.
So business as usual.
Pretty much.
So, and what are you doing these days?
That's a good question. I'm I have been working on different initiatives and projects that I'm yet to launch. So they are all in pre-launch stage. And currently, I'm most passionate about a framework that I'm developing that would redirect the focus of current corporates from corporate purpose to something that is more tangible and hopefully would bring quicker results that would be responsible.
Okay, can you be specific? What kind of results?
Well, essentially, when businesses now are trying to focus on corporate purpose and hoping that this will make them more responsible in terms of environmental and social aspects, then I'm promoting a framework which is corporate legacy. And it would be looking at the present moment and at the immediate past instead of a distant future. And and it would essentially avoid many of the risks that corporate purpose has with it, and which has kind of triggered currently businesses being blamed for purpose washing. So I would be avoiding that.
So it's a kind of a real purpose in the near future.
Essentially, it's not real purpose in the near future, but it's acknowledging the consequences of our current actions and the decisions that we are doing in real time. So it wouldn't allow postponing responsible action.
Well, you were a senior corporate person yourself. Um,
Well, I have founded a small consultancy that I have and that I have had for years on the side throughout everything that I have done. But I have been in corporate roles and public roles before, which some have been quite senior.
so usually I ask people to talk about their childhood, and we'll get there in a moment. But you are one of the people who had a moment, what Jeff Pulver and I call the 10 minutes, an episode in your life that somehow the big bang of Birgit. Um, am I wrong?
Um, I have had quite a few of them, so I can't really pick which one was the biggest bank.
Oh, well, I'll help you. The one on the street.
Oh, that one. Yes, that was
I have to help you remember your own life. It's okay.
yes, yes,
You got
yes.
that.
Yeah. I was at the time leading and developing the national medium-term budget of Estonia, and I had heavily invested into more roles in that. For example, allocating 3.5 billion euros of European funds, etc. And I had gone way too passionate about that and had forgotten myself. So one morning when I was crossing the street in front of the Ministry of Finance, suddenly a thought crossed my mind, which was, what if a car would hit me? And I realized that it would be a relief. So I just took 2 days off. I flew to London to a conference that I was passionate about. And at the conference, on a coffee break, a gentleman, 2 minutes into the conversation, invited me to join his team in London. And it turned out that he used to be an ex-advisor of British Prime Minister. So that's what was my role thereafter, as I actually did join them to advise finance ministries globally. So
Yes,
yeah.
so, you know,
So it was a decision to acknowledge what I feel and acknowledge what I think I need to do. And I'm intending to keep that in mind in the future.
okay, so people who see you, you're very modest, almost shy, and they would not guess that you were one of the most important people in European banking and project development. And how do you account for that? Most people, you know, they're bragging all the time, and they're all the time in the media, and you're very quiet about your great achievements.
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm that important in banking, but I have been fortunate to initiate a project that actually looked at the impact of climate change on national budgets and transformed the Ministry of Finance in Ukraine. So I have had some impact indeed. But that's a really good question that you ask, and I kind of realized it myself as well at one of those other aha moments, which was when I graduated high school. I characterized myself as not being good in mathematics. And the reason why I said it was that because it was the only B, as everything else was an A. However, A is excellent and B is very good. So I was very good at mathematics, but I claimed that I'm not good at math. And this is pretty much the standard that I have established for myself in everything that I do. So that's why I'm not really promoting any of it, because I consider all of it as standard achievements or standard results. And that's that.
Does this have anything to do with the previous generation, you know, living under Soviet rule? And is this some kind of Soviet thing, this overachievement, um, you know, a mantra that we have when we're growing up?
I don't think, I mean, it could be, but I think it's probably more about my own past.
Okay, so now's the first time to talk about
yeah,
this.
yeah, well.
And what made the phenomenal Birgit into who she is today?
That would probably be my grandparents.
Okay.
Because my parents divorced when I was 2, and soon thereafter I started to live together instead with my mother's parents. So my first memory is from moving into the home of my mother's parents. And as my grandmother was a lecturer in a university, and I was quite an introvert already then essentially I was going to a university with her instead of going to a kindergarten. So I was at the university from quite early age.
And what was her field?
Geography, economic geography.
So you were an expert.
And she
you
was
were an expert at the age of 5.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
No, I mean, she picked that field because she was really interested in travel during the Soviet time, and that probably was then the only opportunity to travel. And my past years have showed that I have been as much into travel, so I blame it on my genes, and that's that.
Okay, and you went to school. What were you like as a schoolgirl?
A+ nerd. A+ nerd, but at the same time, because I was brought up by my grandparents and I didn't really play that much with other children, then I saw teachers in school as equals. So I spoke truth to power, and I was walking around in the teachers' hall, etc., looking for them when they were late to the class, and that kind of carried on into my career. So when being at roundtables with finance ministers, and be it in Saudi Arabia or somewhere else, I do not have difficulties with treating very senior politicians, etc., as equals, because I have kind of been brought up in an environment of being an equal to people with the high authority. And so I think it actually gave me a kind of an advantage.
Okay, so and you know, sometimes seeing a young woman in a boardroom, and in our terribly gender unfair society, were there times when you felt, you know, Birgit, can you bring the coffee, or you know, well, what is a young feminine face like you doing here in this serious meeting?
I actually am a little bit guilty of not having perceived that in my life until I was shown it a week into an experience. So long story short, I took part in a faculty development program of 11 leading business schools in the world. And it was probably 150 participants. And it was an intensive 1-week executive education course. And I went there with a question that I didn't get answered. And then one of the participants recommended that, why don't you hold all of us a surprise session about it? So at the end of the week, as the last lecture, I held a surprise session to all of those faculty members of 11 leading business schools in the world. And at the end of it, there was this wonderful young lady from Bocconi University in Italy. And she came to me and she thanked me, and I couldn't understand what for. And she asked me, didn't you see? Didn't you notice? Notice what? And she said that you were the first woman in front of the audience throughout the whole week of morning till evening lectures. And I had never noticed. And since then, I started to look for it. And for example, when I was at the closed roundtable, finance minister level closed roundtable at the Whitehall in London, there was 21 people around the roundtable. 2 of them were women, and one of the women was an organizer. So essentially, I was the only one invited, and I was invited there just to provide my personal opinion on the research that had been carried out. So IMF ended up saying that my recommendations were some of the key takeaways, although I mentioned those over the coffee break. So I haven't really seen that. And therefore I somewhat struggle understanding women discussing it, but I'm trying to actively look for it and to see that for myself.
Because I think that you're an important voice.
Thank you.
And so as far as I understand, so you've been a lecturer, you've held high positions in government, you've been an advisor to very senior international people. And what are you doing these days? You don't seem to have a day job. I'm following you, and you seem to be traveling all over the world. I cannot keep track of your travels. Where have you been, and what are you doing?
That is a good question. So when I left PwC London, which was, I'm embarrassed to admit, but it was 3 years ago, then part of the time at first I couldn't do anything because I had a global non-competition requirement for 6 months.
Mhm.
So I decided to travel and to work on my, at the time, unfinished PhD. And as I had a family member who had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, then I decided to spend time at home in Tallinn and not to work anywhere else globally. So then I ended up traveling from zip lining down from the Olympic ski jump in Oslo to the to high Arctic, 1,500 kilometers north the Arctic Circle, close to the North Pole, at Svalbard. Then there was a whole round trip in Europe, and I have actually forgotten what I did the first year. And then the following year, I was snowshoeing in Lebanon. Then I was in Israel, South Korea, in a Buddhist monastery, and hiking in the mountains, and hiking barefoot in the mountains in Switzerland, and looking for wild orangutans in Borneo rainforests, 3 of them.
You met
and
some of them?
Brunei and whatnot. Sorry?
Did you meet orangutans?
I managed to see wild orangutans, and that was a wonderful experience.
Did they see you?
I don't think the orangutan did, but there were other species of their national monkeys and whatnot that I managed to see from really, really close. So that was wonderful. But when I was at Svalbard and I tried to see polar bears there, then I happened to be on a ship that didn't see them. So I'm yet to return. But I had a wonderful aha moment, which probably even wasn't an aha moment, but I would say it was an environmental epiphany.
Mhm.
As it was in August, it was 5 degrees outside. Everybody else was indoor on the ship. It was a ship for 80 people. There was just 10 of us on board, and I was on the deck alone, looking at the scenery, enjoying the views. And suddenly I felt this intense outpouring of love towards the surface of the water around us. So it was really, really strong emotion that said that if somebody would throw a plastic bottle across, then I would make the captain turn around and fetch it because it doesn't belong there. And coming back, I started to read into environmental psychology, and there actually are moments, what environmental psychologists call environmental epiphanies, and that triggered me and hope to create those in the future for powerful executives, for them to trigger that environmental concern that they would require to to create a better planet.
So you've gone from the idea of making money to the idea of making the world.
I would want to correct you there, because my problem is I have never had the idea of making money, and that's a bit of a problem. So I have.
I mean, PwC. I know these kind of companies quite well. They don't care about the environment. They care about making money, and they have clients who care only about making money. And you worked there for several years.
I started from KPMG for a year and a half, and then I was at PwC for a year.
The same, and Ernst Young, and all these companies. Their clients are not people who wave the flag of doing good and saving the planet, but corporate business.
Well, yes and no, because when I joined it, then I joined it for that particular person, and I really believed in his values, in his authentic wish to create good globally. We were working with development aid projects to help low-income countries and to improve their taxation, etc. However, yes, those corporates can also work on projects that have been funded by tobacco companies. So, yeah, I agree. But
For example,
I did give up half of my job to spend time with my dog. So it kind of does characterize that I'm not really motivated by money.
No, it's clear that's why I asked the question. You are not motivated by money. You've worked for people who work in corporate structures, where money is the most important thing. I have a friend, Yaakov Rosen, who is 92 and a half years old. And he is a successful a builder and an entrepreneur, and now a philanthropist, who says at his early age that the world has to change. We have to stop thinking about rampant consumerism and just making money. So, but how are we going to fix this? You see, because everybody wants to buy this and buy that, and
well, that's partly why I'm working on that framework, that corporate legacy framework, which would also focus executives and board members on the legacy that they leave while they are in that business. And I think, or I believe that's the way to go, because the footprint that we leave largely depends on our abilities. And it would be unfair to expect those who are less fortunate to try to make up for the massive footprint that those of us who have been more lucky are leaving. So, for example, my own goal is to do more good than the footprint that I leave. And knowing my recent travels, I have to admit that I have left a massive footprint. So now I have set myself this goal or target of doing more good than the damage that I have done so far.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that you learned at home? Is it something that they teach in Estonia? Because I met a lot of people in Estonia who have a very strong moral direction in their life. They want to do good before they want to make a lot of money.
That's an interesting question. Well, maybe it depends on the age, because I can still remember the time when Estonia was regaining its independence. And at the time, people were of opinion that we could eat potato peels in freedom, instead of being oppressed. So we kind of have gotten that. We have gotten that freedom, and so it may be that our base level of achievement and happiness is somewhat different. For example, I remember I was very lucky when I was in the first grade. I got to go to Finland with my grandparents for a few days. And at the time, it was going to the Western world from behind the Iron Curtain. And we arrived there with a ship around midnight. We had to drive some 200 kilometers north.
Wow.
So we arrived there at night and we had to go to a gasoline station. Gasoline station, which is like every gasoline station we currently have in the Western society. But when the glass doors opened and I saw this tray of oranges and bananas and pineapples and I was just gasping out loud. And I told my grandmother, like, we have to come back here tomorrow. We have to come back here tomorrow. And she was like, no, dear, tomorrow we're going to a department store. And so, yeah, at least the way I see it, we already have quite a bit of luxury. So why not try to do something meaningful with your life instead?
So this is remarkable. So what I'm understanding is that because you had to fight so hard for freedom, and because the freedom in Estonia is tenuous,
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you take for granted.
Yeah.
So maybe you say part of our ethic is going to be not taking our society for granted.
That is, yeah.
Um,
I mean, 2020 has shown that we shouldn't do it. Yes.
mhm. So I want to go back to Birgit, the wonderful human being, with all of these attributes of combining your intellect and abilities and doing good for the world. So you were brought up by your grandparents, and what about your parents?
Well, currently, as I'm sheltering in place in Tallinn, I'm actually staying in my family home, which is a separate wing in a building, and my grandparents used to live here. So as I inherited what they left, then this at the moment is my kind of my only time to actually spend time with the same items still that I was brought up. And this building belongs to my mother, and she lives on the other side of the building. So I'm still I'm still, of course, rather close with my family, and I'm very, very close with my father, who is a race car driver and ex race car driver and an entrepreneur. So I have always had kind of three sets of parents or families, and it was quite it was obvious enough that when I was graduating high school and when we had this really tiny hall, then I was actually given 4 invitations for parents instead of 2, which was the usual case.
So and coming to now.
Yeah.
What is the unfinished business in your life? What is going to make you even happier than you are today?
Well, it would be launching at least 2 of the 3 projects that I have been working on. And then in addition, I think I have a somewhat of a similar goal than you might have, which is I'm yet to write the book about the period of my life, which would be focused on my dog.
your autobiography would be focused on your dog.
Yes.
Okay, how does that work?
That actually works quite easy because I adopted this homeless 2.5-month-old white puppy when I was in Turkey on holiday. I smuggled the dog out of Turkey, flew the dog to Estonia, and the dog ended up growing into a 48-kilo wolf pack killer. And I was lucky that I had a boyfriend at the time who kind of ended up buying the dog 3 cars, building a 150 square meter bungalow, and so on. And the dog actually ended up somewhat running the national finances because she was dictating how I could work. And because of the dog, I also ended up, while working in London, actually living in Estonia and working in London because I was always commuting back to my dog. So I took 4 flights per week. And I think it's quite unusual. And so I believe that that part would probably require a book.
Okay, so and the who's going to write the book, you or the dog?
Well, the dog no longer is here, so it has to be me. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, it could be the because I write the stories with my dog, who I don't know where he is right now. So because dogs don't usually write, I mean, maybe, and even though your dog is no longer with you, it could be with you in spirit.
Yeah.
And it could be writing your life. I don't know whether this helps you.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll help me to write my story. Or maybe we should write the story together. Each of us should help the other one write their story.
That is amazing. Let's talk about that.
Okay. You want to? So the 2 other projects are secret right now?
Well, one of them is the same framework that I mentioned, and that I would like to see put in practice. And then I'm currently I have created this let's say dinner concept, which would be in a way raising awareness about climate change in a rather unique format. And I have discussed it with the chef of the best restaurant in Estonia, and he is willing to do it in the best restaurant. And now it's just a question of when, as currently the pandemic might ruin it. And because it would be a menu created specially for that event, it would require booking the whole restaurant. And therefore, I would likely need to book it and then create it as a special event and sell those tickets, or find a way to fund it. And when mentioning it to a couple of people, then one of them already has asked me to do it also in Japan, and another one to do it also in Singapore. So it might very well end up being a curated dinner series that would be international and global, and would be focusing on, again, the people with the potential biggest impact, because they are actually those who can create the biggest change afterwards. And then sorry, go on.
It's remarkable. You're not interested in making a salary anymore and getting a day job?
Well, I may be forced to. For now, I'm burning money like there is no tomorrow. So there was this really interesting moment when I spoke with the very famous entrepreneur in Estonia, at the time when I was working at PwC. And he invited me to meet him, and he said that, you know what, working as hard as you do makes only sense in one situation. And I was really curious what would be the situation. And he said that it would be if you are building your own company with your own money.
Wow.
And funny enough, right immediately after, he essentially offered me a partnership in his own company. So he sort of said that I shouldn't be working as hard as I do, even if he employs me. And that kind of left me so strong impact that I am still reluctant to take a day job, and I would rather build something that I would really believe in, whether alone or ideally with somebody with a similar mindset who has the skills that I don't have.
Well, you know that if you get interested in ebooks, you have a friend to call.
That's a good thing to know. Yes.
Birgit, and this has been remarkable. Usually I end off the discussion by talking about the Beatles.
Yes.
Did you have Beatles in Estonia? The band? Beatles music?
We probably did, but I'm not that informed about it.
Okay.
I was born in 81, and pretty much what I had at home was 2 records that had been brought from Finland or Sweden by my grandparents, and one of them was ABBA and the other one was Boney M. So this is pretty much what I grew up.
Grandparents listened to Boney M?
I think it was brought from my mom, but they somehow ended up with the records. But yes, so that's more what I grew up with.
So and the incredible Estonian traditional music. What about that?
I was
Were you
singing.
in a choir? Everybody
Yes.
was in a choir in Estonia.
I was. I somewhat feel sorry for the others who were, because I believe that I really shouldn't be in a choir, but I was, and I have been at the song festival, at everything. So yes.
So listen, I'm going to make a deal with you.
Okay.
Because you've been great, way outside your comfort zone here, talking about your life and your aspirations, and it's incredible. I want to take it one step further.
Oh God, no.
Because we have here hundreds of people who've never heard a traditional Estonian song.
I honestly don't know one.
Okay, Birgit, I'm going to let you off the hook. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
I don't think.
In that case, I want to thank Yossi Vardi, who introduced us through Kinernet, and hope that very soon we'll be able to travel to these wonderful unconferences and talk about everything, and listen to music and have wine, and hope to make the world a better place. So it was great having you. I congratulate you from here on your heart and all your plans to improve humanity and the world that is so precious to us. So Birgit, take care, and I hope to see you soon.
Likewise. I couldn't be more grateful for the friends that I have met at the events you mentioned, and I am forever grateful to Yossi for that. So looking forward to seeing all of you again soon.
Yes, so take care of yourself, and you have a lot of friends in Israel who are always there for you.
Looking forward to
Including-
returning.
Including me.
Obviously.
Bye-bye, dear. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.